Oh, good evening, everybody. We are back with another Phins forecast show. In case you guys haven't heard, free agency has started. The illegal tampering period is over, and guys are officially signing with their teams, their new teams. The Dolphins have signed quite a few players, actually. So we're going to get into all that. We're going to get into takes from the deep end and a few other things tonight. So stay tuned. We will be right back. There's Josh over there dancing. Good evening, everybody. We are back with the Phins forecast. Free agency is going on as we speak. A bunch of players have signed elsewhere. Now we're going to get into free agency. We're not going to get into probably NFL-wide free agency tonight. We're just going to, try and stick to the Dolphins, guys who have played for the Dolphins, guys who are coming to the Dolphins, because so much has happened over the past few days. It's been ridiculous.
Been wild.
But first and foremost, I'm going to introduce my co-host, and I'm going to start with Josh because Josh has a really exciting announcement for the show.
Yeah, you guys got me hyped, man. Not only the video, but with this news. All right, listen up. All of those listening live, all of those listening after, you guys, I know you guys are excited, just as excited as I am, because next week, all right, fellas, next week's show, we have a huge guest joining us on the Phins forecast. It's my guy, the legend himself, Dougley Do-Wrong. Right. He's coming to the show. He's going to chop it up for 30 to 45 minutes. We're going to talk free agents. You already know he keeps it real, right? And we're going to hit on some big topics. We're really going to hit on some big topics. I'm really excited. We're going to talk about which Dolphins free agency moves and signings he was a big fan of, which ones he was not a big fan of, and kind of look maybe at the landscape of who's left and see who he thinks we should maybe go after, right? This is going to be a must-listen episode. You guys need to tune in live. This is going to be so exciting. Set your timers, set your, phone a friend, do whatever you got to do. I'm super, super excited.
Yeah, we are too. We're super excited to have this guy on the show with us. Josh, you've been doing yeoman's work over the past week, trying to get this guy to come on with us. And we're excited to have him on. We're excited to chop it up with us. And look, I've been watching him for a little while now. He's great. He's great at what he does. And he's sort of what we want our channel to aspire to be.
Yeah, I mean, I've been watching him since almost day one of his channel for the most part, and I respect him in the industry. I mean, I put him on par with the Kyle Krabs, the Travis Wingfields of the world. I mean, he knows his stuff. He's got a huge following. He knows football. He especially knows the Miami Dolphins, and I could not be more excited that he was. I mean, and it was very easy to communicate with him. We had a bunch of back and forths trying to get our schedules aligned, and he was very eager and very willing to come join our show and chop it up with us. So, hats off to him and his willingness. I know he's super busy, and I can't wait. I cannot fucking wait.
So again, guys, next week, 7:00, our usual show on Wednesday night. Dougley Do-Wrong is going to be on this show talking football with us. It's going to be awesome. Please tune in. Going to move on to our next co-host, Taylor. How you doing tonight, man?
I'm doing fantastic, especially after that news. I'm a fan of Dougley Do-Wrong. I've been a fan since that Week 3 game against Denver last year, where I'm sure you guys were the same way. After that game, you were just going to find anybody to listen to hear about Dolphin news, and I was like, oh, this guy knows his stuff, exactly what you said, Josh. So it's going to be interesting to get his take on everything going on in free agency and what he thinks about Dolphins going forward.
Yeah, it's going to be great. That 70-point game, I'm right there with you, Taylor. I was looking for somebody to kiss, and my wife was just
scavenging.
I was watching videos over it on repeat, the same ones. Just let's watch that again. That was fun.
Poor Brandon Perna.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry.
that blew up his channel though.
Yeah. Anthony, how you doing tonight, man?
I'm doing good, man. I don't really have much else to say about the Dudley news. That's huge news. I'm excited to get that started. It's on my birthday too, so it's like double whammy right there.
Hey.
We got a huge guest on my birthday show, so I'm pretty pumped for that. And our first guest, no less. What a pull by Josh. Our first guest being such a big name in the Dolphins community. But yeah, otherwise, man, it's free agency time. Our chat has been livelier than ever right now. Just every single piece of free agent news that happens, we're sending it to each other because it's the most exciting time of the year. We have gone through the gamut of emotions in these past 48 hours. Like, I have talked you guys off of bridges. You have talked me off of bridges. We've had fights. We've made up. We had some ice cream. We watched movies. We did it all. So
we celebrated too.
We're here.
There's going to be some debates today.
And that was all the first 15, 20 minutes, right?
No, it's true.
It's crazy, Anthony. We were you were saying, we've been, our chat's been going nuts. We have a group text chat, and we've just been texting, going back and forth, going nuts. At one point, I was in the car, and as a rule, I don't text and drive. I don't look at my phone while I'm driving. But I saw a bunch of notifications pop up on my screen. You guys are texting back and forth. I'm sitting there thinking, what happened? I'm chomping at the bit where I'm going. So I was like, I want to know who we signed. Turns out it was like, I think it was James Daniels, actually. I was in the car for that. But, so we're going to get into it. We're going to start with former Dolphins who have signed elsewhere. So we're going to start with the big one. Javon Holland, obviously, signed with the New York Giants. 3 years, $45 million. With the incentives, it can get up to like 47. Not the contract I thought he was going to get free agency. I'll be honest with you guys. But what are your thoughts on it? Taylor, I'm going to start with you.
Considering the way that safety market went in day one, it was a weird thing to where Holland hadn't signed yet, and I'm sitting there going, I guess he might go back to Miami on like a cheaper deal. Turns out the Giants were sitting there ready to pay him. This is one of those rare times to where I'm glad Miami didn't spend for a young player. And I'm rooting for Javon Holland. It's just that the last 2 years specifically just haven't been it for him. And it would have been really rough if we gave him that money and then all of a sudden, those 2 years that were a bit off turns into the norm for him.
Well, you kind of answered my next question here, Taylor, because my hypothetical question was going to be, because like I said, this is not the contract I expect Javon Holland to get. Would you have signed him for that money if you were the Dolphins?
Not really, just because, again, those last 2 seasons.
Fair enough. Anthony, what are your thoughts on it?
It's interesting, though. The safety market in general was kind of crazy. Like, I didn't expect Talanoa Hufanga, who we all love, to get $15 million a year. He's had
good pronunciation. Nailed it.
One good season, this dude gets 15. The same deal that Holland got? Like, that was wild to me. Cameron Bynum also got $15 million a year. Trayvon Moore got a little more.
He was my guy. Yeah.
He got like $17 million a year. So, like, those were the top 4 guys. Everybody else got significantly less money than that. I wouldn't want to spend that on a safety room, even though our safety room's empty. We have so many holes up front that that'd be useless money in my opinion. Especially just for these guys, right? This was not a top tier crop of guys to be handing this kind of money.
No, and this is, I think to your point, Anthony, this isn't the time to get sentimental and start overpaying for guys who you may have drafted or whatever. I love Javon Holland just as much as the next guy, his first 2 years. And to Taylor's point, his last 2 years haven't been as good. So Josh, what were your thoughts on the Javon Holland signing?
Yeah, I wouldn't have signed him. I would have, if he maybe lasted, a day or 2 more, maybe you offer him, just come back on a 1 year on a okay, like give him $12 million for 1 year, like whatever it is, just as a prove it kind of deal, right? You didn't get your market, come back, prove it. We'll either re-sign you if you have a stellar year, or you can hit the market with better credentials, right, going into the following year. I'm happy for him. We are very, on this entire podcast, we are very pro get your bag, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like, go do you. It's not my money. I don't give a shit, right? But sorry, I don't give a crud. I'm trying to do better.
Cat's already got the bag. Josh.
Yeah, okay. Calf it, right?
Trying to reverse time over here.
But there was only really 2 safeties on this in the entire free agency that I thought were worth significant money, right?
Yeah.
The one guy whose name I won't pronounce, at 15 million, too rich. To Anthony's point, he's an injury-prone receiver. He's an injury-prone safety. Now, if he can stay healthy, the dude's amazing, right? But that's the problem. If he can stay healthy. Mooring, on the other hand, that was a guy that I would have been okay shelling out even what he made, right? 17 mil. Like, he is that good, in my opinion, right? He can transform the back end of our defense by just that one signing alone, which would then alleviate the need to address it higher in the draft and then go and shell out additional money for more veterans, right? I think if we would have signed Mooring, for example, I would have been fine stopping there, right? Having who we have in the room coming back from last year, signing maybe a round 3, getting a safety out of Notre Dame or something like that, for example, right? Just to complete that room and let the 3 battle it out for the starters. And you have a stud in the back defense. But Holland, I wish him the best, but not at that contract value. See you later. Go to the Giants and play for a winning team. I mean, I don't know. Whatever.
Well, we'll see how it goes. I think we're all of the same mindset. We'll always be silently cheering for him from afar.
Mm-hmm.
So Javon Holland, congratulations. You're going to the New York Giants. Good luck to you.
Did you guys see what he said?
No, what did he say?
And I'll paraphrase it because I don't remember exactly the words, but it was something like, it's nice to be playing for a coach that can lead men, or something or I want to play for a coach that can lead, or something along those lines. And it's like, and you chose the Giants. Like, really?
Yeah.
They wanted to play for a leader and a coach who can lead men.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, I like Brian Daboll as a coach, but I don't like the Giants as an organization. So, look, maybe he's a catalyst to help turn things around up there. I don't know. But I will be cheering for him, his little jabs at Mike McDaniel on the Dolphins aside. Moving on, we're going to look at Robert Jones. Robert Jones, of course, our starting left guard this past season. We all have our own thoughts on that, but he signed a 1-year deal worth up to $4.75 million with the Dallas Cowboys. Now, I know their offensive line room fairly well. I think he's going to be going there to be a backup, which is how he's best suited. I don't think he's not suited to be a starter. But Robert Jones is going to the Dallas Cowboys. Josh, we'll start with you. What do you think about that one?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the next 3 that we're going to talk about, I don't even think I don't need to comment on them. I mean, they're okay, good. I'm happy for them. I'm glad they got their contracts, 1-year type deals. Good for them that they found a team. That's not us.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm going to move on to Braxton Berrios, wide receiver. He was mostly a punt returner for us, if we're being honest about it. But he signed a 1-year deal for $2 million with the Houston Texans. Taylor, what are your thoughts on that one?
Good move, because they do need a returner, and that wide receiver core is banged up. So
yeah. All right. And then finally, Durham Smythe. Don't think any of us are sad to see him go. Went to the Chicago Bears. 1-year deal, money to be determined. Anthony, you have any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I'll say what I told you guys in the chat. Like, my boss is a Bears fan. He asked me about him, and I replied with, yeah, he's abundantly average.
That's a perfect way to describe
it.
It
is.
Really
it is.
He's not
frustratingly mediocre.
He's not bad. It's just every all season you go like, can we get an upgrade? And then whenever you don't, you're like, well, that's fine.
Yeah, all right.
At least we got Durham Smythe, right, guys?
Yeah.
Now Julian Hill's our guy.
Well, according to TA, he's the best blocker on the team outside of the tackles.
Yeah, outside of the linemen. Like you said, Josh. Teron Armstead went on a podcast and said that Julian Hill is the best blocker on the team, other than the best non-lineman blocker on the team.
Well, you know what? TA's getting a little old. He's around our age. I think he might need some LASIK or something.
Yeah, it's possible. All right, so we're going to move on to Dolphins guys who were Dolphins who have signed elsewhere. Matt Collins, trying to continue his tour of the AFC East. He's going to the New England Patriots.
Yeah.
So the only team in the AFC East he hasn't played for now is the New York Jets. For his sake, I really hope he doesn't make it there.
Stop now. Just stop.
My only thought on Matt Collins is like the dude doesn't wear his shoes and he's playing for all these cold weather teams. Like, dude,
I actually am a fan of his, right? I mean,
I am too.
I was bitter, no pun intended, when he went to the Bills, right?
Yeah.
But I think he's going to do great, right? I think he'll bring some leadership to that room, some speed, some receiving. The deal is good for them. I forgot. I think it was you, Taylor. Maybe I forgot who it was, but somebody made a joke in our group chat about what kind of award is he getting once he completes the AFC East tour or something like that. I laughed about that for like 4 hours. It was great.
Next guy, Trent Sherfield is going to the Minnesota Vikings. No, from the Minnesota Vikings to the Denver Broncos. Sorry, 2 years, $8 million. He's another Matt Collins type of receiver. Kind of more special teams than anything else. He'll get like 20 catches for you. Don't think any of us are as sad to see him go as we were Matt Collins. I actually like Matt Collins a lot, honestly.
Yeah, me too.
Next we have Mike Gesicki kind of getting the bag here. 3 years, $25.5 million to stay with the Cincinnati Bengals. And he came out and he basically said, I would have taken less money to continue playing with Joe Burrow. Hey, good for him. They utilized him the way he should be utilized in that offense last year. And it paid off for him. He looked great last year. He looked like, and that's honestly one of my criticisms of Mike McDaniel is that he never learned or he never learned how to utilize Mike Gesicki. And I think that's kind of criminal if we're getting right down to it. And then Landon Roberts went to the Raiders, 1 year, $3 million. Good for him. No real notes. And Tyler Tart. So Tyler Tart, weird story with him. The Dolphins signed him to a free agent contract and they cut him in the preseason, cut him during training camp. And he's going back to the Chargers. The Chargers signed him last year. He's going back there. 1 year, $5.5 million. I will go to my grave. Yeah, I will go to my grave not knowing what the hell happened there. But
you mean when he was on the Dolphins?
Yeah, he was on the Dolphins.
It was injuries. It was I think it was all injury based.
Fair enough. I heard other things as well. Like
okay.
Work ethic and
Oh, well, that makes sense.
But again, these things happen behind closed doors. We don't really know what happened. We'll never know what happened, honestly. But we're gonna, there's the guys that signed elsewhere. You know what? They're dead to us. They're not Dolphins anymore. Screw them. So we're going to move on to guys who are Miami Dolphins. We're going to start with a new backup quarterback in town, guys.
Hey.
A new backup quarterback. Josh, you want to tell us about him?
I mean, do I have to? I mean, look, okay, hide your moms, right? That's all I can say. Okay, yes, to your point, Keith, Zach Wilson is our new backup. Not exactly who we as a collective Phins forecast projected as the backup quarterback that we think we would have liked to have signed, but in the same price range that we if you go back and look at our shows, we said we're going to be a higher paid backup quarterback team in the 6 to 8, maybe 9 million range, depending on who it is. And he came right in at that 6 million. So 6'2", 214, formerly of the New York Jets, and more recently the Denver Broncos, which I think actually might have helped him become a slightly better player. 26 years old at the start of this coming season, which I think is great. Still young. He's on a 1 year deal, right? I think it's 1 year, 6 million, fully guaranteed. But there's incentives based on playing time and productivity where he can get up to 10 million is what I believe it is. I think last year playing under Sean Payton in Denver really helped develop him more than he ever developed in New York. Do I think he's a starter in this league? Absolutely not. Not yet, at least. But am I ready to give up on him and say this is a waste of money? This guy is garbage? No, because I used my eyes. And if you watched preseason last year when he was in Denver, I think he took 53 to 60 snaps in the preseason for Denver and actually looked really good. I'm not saying in any way, shape, or form he's a starter. But if Tua goes down, he is, and I have to credit, I think it was Kyle Krabs that said this on one of his reaction shows. Zach Wilson is Skylar Thompson. I know, hold your breath, but with every statistic maxed out at 99. Right. Okay. So he's a much better Skylar Thompson, essentially, which is fine for a backup, right? In a perfect scenario, he never sees the field. But if he does see the field, he has athleticism. He has he does have a strong arm. He can throw the ball really fast or really far. His issue is, at least in my opinion, his accuracy, which can be taught, which can be worked on, right? And in this offense that thrives on accuracy, I know I've seen the comments. Well, how can you sign a quarterback for $6 million that isn't accurate when the key thing you need for your quarterback in this offense is accuracy? Understood. However, you can teach that. And he gets in the room with Tua, who's a brilliant quarterback upstairs. You get him around the coaches, you get him around the receivers, and you take some pressure off of him. And you, if he has to go in the game, if you being Mike McDaniel can set him up to not have to overthink things, because I think that's where he struggles when he has to read too much, shrink the field, make it a 1 or 2 read kind of play. I think he could thrive and not thrive. He could sustain this offense until Tua comes back, if that makes sense. I do not think that this signing, however, should dissuade us from drafting one in the mid rounds. Call it 5 through 7, right? If you look at his stats, 2021 for the Jets, he played for 13 games. He started 13 games. He had 2,334 yards, 9 passing touchdowns, 11 passing interceptions. 22, he played in 9 games. He started 9 games. I think this was an injury year. He passed for just over 1,600 yards, 6 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. There is a reoccurring theme here with touchdowns to interception ratios. But again, understand that he was drafted second overall to a team that is garbage, that has been, and I'm sorry if you're a Jets fan watching this, I'm not a fan of your franchise. It is not because I think we are, yes, there have been years where we've been each other's rivals, but I do not think that we're in the same stratosphere right now. And I think the Jets organization from top bottom is a kind of a dumpster fire. And it has been for close to a decade, in my humble opinion. I'm not saying they don't have really good players at key positions. They just cannot get out of their own way. And when you draft Zach Wilson out of BYU with limited starts in college to be your franchise quarterback at number 2, that's a stupid move, in my opinion. And it set him up for failure. So I think him in a backup role, let him build into the offense. I think he can do okay things if he has to go in.
Okay. Now, we were kind of split on this signing when it first happened.
Mm-hmm.
Seems like you've come back down to earth a little bit, Josh.
Yeah.
Because you were really high on it when it first happened. And
I mean, really high, no, but I was excited that we signed somebody in the range that we all predicted. And I think that's where the excitement came from. Like, guys, we got it right, sort of.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Right.
One thing I do like about Zach Wilson was he went in the Broncos camp last year. He did play well, and he went there with the idea of maybe I can become the starter. The Broncos drafted Bo Nix. Bo Nix.
Formerly known as Bo Nix. Now he's Joe Nix.
Yeah, he's graduated. He got an extra letter in his name. Bo Nix was drafted by the Broncos in the first round, and Bo Nix beat out Zach Wilson and Jarrett Stidham
handedly.
Yeah,
handedly
in camp. And what I liked about Zach Wilson was the way he handled that.
Mm-hmm.
The way he handled the disappointment of not being the starter, where he basically came out and said, you know what? He was the best quarterback. He outplayed me. Good luck to him. I will be here to help him in any way possible. That was a really mature thing to say. Even if that's not what he felt, that was a mature way to publicly handle the disappointment of not being the starter.
Mm-hmm.
Now he's coming to Miami, where we know he's not going to be the starter. He knows he's not going to be the starter. If he thinks he's going to be the starter, he's freaking delusional because he's not starting over Tua. But I will say this: I wasn't as high on the signing for the reasons that you just outlined, Josh.
Mm-hmm.
And the other person who wasn't high on the signing, Anthony. Anthony, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, this is the exact opposite of what I wanted here. I wasn't looking for a failed second-round pick with very little upside and terrible stats to boot. I get that he just came from Sean Payton's system in Denver, but we don't have Sean Payton down here in Miami. We got Mike McDaniel and a QB coach who failed to get anything out of 4 different quarterbacks last year when Tua went down. Like, I get it. Get him in the room with Tua, get him in the room with receivers. Hopefully he gets better. Hopefully he clicks. It didn't happen for any of the guys we had last year who I would consider to be on the about even playing field with this guy. Like, no, they weren't all starters in the NFL like he was, so he does have that one up on them. And yes, he comes from a higher pedigree than them. So if we're going to look at that, sure, Zach Wilson is better than the quadfecta or whatever you want to call it that we had last year.
I call it a shit show, but you can call it whatever you want.
Sure. But man, when we were talking about spending top dollar for a backup quarterback, I was hoping it would be like a guy who can actually play quarterback. That would have been nice. This guy has more career interceptions than he has touchdowns. That's great. 57% completion percentage in his career in an offense that requires you to be accurate. Like, what? That's crazy to me. And like, if the coaching staff proved last year they took Tyler Huntley or Tim Boyle or Skylar Thompson or whoever the hell else played quarterback for us, that they could put these guys in this system and give them a 1 or 2 read play and that they would succeed, then I'd be like, yes, this is great. High upside, young guy, 2nd overall pick. He obviously had talent or has talent. It's just untapped. The problem is I don't have any confidence that the coaching staff can get anything out of him that anybody else did, right? Like, I don't think we're going to get out of him what the Broncos got out of him because, frankly, I don't think our QB coaches are as good as Sean Payton and staff. And what does it say that they would have rather paid Stidham? What's his first name? Jared Stidham. They gave him a 2-year, $12 million contract instead of bringing back Zach Wilson for 1 year, $6 million, right? So even Sean Payton didn't want him back, sends him back to Miami instead. This is the exact opposite of what I was hoping here.
Yeah,
obviously.
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. Obviously, all backup quarterbacks are mostly trash. That's why they're backup quarterbacks. I get that. But man, give me somebody who can freaking make a play. Give me somebody who's not afraid to whip it down the field. Don't give me a failed quarterback who I have no idea what we're going to get out of him, but I sure as heck am not confident we're going to get a win if he has to play.
Yeah, and I will say this: there, if as we get through all of these signings, I think there's a common theme where we set our price for that position, and then we shotgun to every free agent and said, "Who wants to play for this?"
Yeah,
right. Who wants this money, right? And I think for the players that we all discussed as wants, like the the Mariotas and the who was the other guy that we kept talking about, the
Minshew
Gardner. Yeah. I feel like they knew their value was more than $6 million, right? And I don't think our front office was willing to budge. So if that's the case, I mean, I say that with zero context. I'm not in these.
Well, Mariota re-signed today, 1 year, $8 million. So
okay, right. Yeah. So who knows?
Well, Taylor, you were a little higher on this than Anthony. Anthony doesn't set a high bar on this signing, but
so yeah, if he can put his helmet on, it's a win, right, Anthony?
So Taylor, what are your thoughts on this Zach Wilson signing?
I already know I'm going to regret this, but I think I'm the highest on Zach Wilson signing with the Dolphins out of all 4 of us here. I had him on my radar as a free agent signing. I was not a big fan of, and I'm kind of splitting hairs here when I'm talking about like the contract he got. I'm talking about like $1-2 million more than I would have personally liked to see, but it is what it is. I would have loved to get somebody like Jameis Winston or Marcus Mariota or Jimmy Garoppolo, but Jameis Winston appears to be sitting out going like, well, it's musical chairs at quarterback, and somebody's going to end up with no quarterback, and I might get a chance to start. I don't understand what happened with Mariota, if it just didn't work out contract-wise or what, but getting to Zach Wilson, I'm not going to sit here and act like Zach Wilson's this untapped elite quarterback potential. No, he's a backup quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he is. He is a QB2 at best, and he got drafted too high. That being said, there are, and This is whenever you go to look at how he played with the Jets and with the Broncos, there are actual traits here. This
and
is
he's
not
got 36
Skylar
starts, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's huge.
That's why he was on my radar as a quality backup. It's because of the experience. It's because he was around Aaron Rodgers and Sean Payton and some coaches, not naming Nathaniel Hackett, because that does hurt my argument a bit. But he was around a lot of coaches and players that actually should have helped him.
Is it LaFleur too, right? Matt LaFleur too?
Yeah. Yep. I believe in 2020?
21,
like his
21
rookie
and
year?
22 or something like that,
Yeah. So he's got traits to where, as Anthony, you brought up, the staff couldn't get anything out of Tyler Huntley and Tim Boyle and who else? Skylar Thompson. All these guys. Mike White, that's somebody who I've seen brought up a lot. Like, we just got an Jets quarterback who's throwing more picks and touchdowns. Guys, I understand. I'm not trying to champion from Zach Wilson to be QB1 or be this great quarterback. He, again, to be clear, he's a backup. But he has more arm talent and talent than all those quarterbacks I just named
combined, in my opinion.
It's not even close. He was on paper, in terms of talents and traits, a first-round pick. He should have been.
Back in college too.
Pick number 2? Nah.
I mean, none of that matters when you have the mental capacity of a 3-year-old.
See, that's where you do go to the flaws in his game. I do think, Josh, you nailed it when it comes to accuracy and decision-making being the problem. And Anthony, I think you nailed it as well, or Keith. One of you guys said you want a quarterback who's not scared to throw it. And there was something about Zach Wilson, especially with the Jets. I want to say the year that Aaron Rodgers was there with him, and he just seemed like he was scared to just go for it. He's got arm to do it. So that's the one thing that I'm a little optimistic about, because that's something I kind of thought Tua had a problem with early in his career. He was scared to throw it to where Fitzpatrick said,
he did have the yips a little bit, Taylor. I'll grant you that. And we've seen that with other Jets quarterbacks in the past. Sam Darnold.
Seeing ghosts.
Geno Smith.
Yep.
These are guys that escaped New York and became serviceable quarterbacks in the NFL. If not, none of them are elite. They're serviceable. We're going to move off of Zach Wilson here. We're going to move on to our next free agent signing. Anthony, tell us about him.
Yeah, so offensive guard James Daniels, in my opinion, this was the best signing we've had so far this free agency period. This was a guy that we've all talked about in the past few episodes. I think we pinned him as a potential target a month ago when we first started talking about free agency. And the reasoning was pretty simple, right? He's under 30 years old. He'll be 28 at the start of the season, and he's played a lot of football. He's started for 5 years for 2 different teams, starting with the Bears, then heading over to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Second-round pick from Iowa in 2018. This dude's versatile. He's played left and right guard. That's exactly what we need. Guards, like any of them. Any body that can stand right between the center and the tackle, we need you. And this dude's huge, 6'4", 327. Now, guys, we signed him to 3 years, $24 million. That's only $8 million a year. And that, like they say in Moneyball, follow the money, right? Follow the money. That's not a lot of money for a starting guard. And the reason being, he tore his Achilles last year in week 4 of the season. Last week, yeah. So I don't know if he'll be ready to play the season. There hasn't been any reporting or anything on what his.
I saw something saying that he'll be ready to go in the summer, so he'll be there for OTAs.
I will believe that when I see it, because the Achilles is a brutal injury,
especially for a big boy.
Yeah. Listen, the contract is amazingly team friendly, so this is really a win-win. I was shocked we got him for this, especially given some of the guard contracts that were handed out. I mean, Will Freeze anybody?
Oh my God,
Christmas!
Yeah.
Jesus. I don't think I've ever been so wrong on a contract in my life.
Crazy, dude. Yeah. So to get a starting guard, which he will be, if he will be starting for us in September if he's fully healed, for $8 million a year, sign me up.
Yeah, It's a bargain. Huge fan of the signing. I'm right there with you, Anthony. I'm a huge fan of the signing. Not really much else for me to say other than I love the way he played. He's a great run blocker. That's what he does. That's what he does best. He opens up holes in the running game. And he's a decent pass blocker, but he's a great run blocker. When he went down in week 4, and Grant, we're only talking about 3 weeks, he was the top-rated run blocking guard in the NFL.
Ooh, that's a good pull. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so great run blocker. Hopefully he can return to form. And again, $8 million, Anthony, dude.
House money right there, bro.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure we can, if something happens this year, we can actually get out of his contract next year with 0 cap hit.
Yeah, but I don't want to.
No, I'm not saying I want to either, but I mean,
Yeah.
It's good to know that they've structured this contract from a team standpoint very intelligently.
Yeah.
Right?
It intrigues me. Sorry, just one last thing. It does intrigue me that we got him that cheap, though, because something in the back of my mind is like, what's wrong?
Yeah. Glass cannon.
I think it's the Achilles. I think people see Achilles injuries and they're immediately scared off, and they should be. I mean, Jalen Phillips tore his Achilles and then promptly tore his ACL. You can't tell me that the rehab from his Achilles didn't put some sort of strain on his ACL. Guys get Achilles injuries and they don't return to form, or they take 2 or 3 years to return to form, because that's one of those injuries that saps your explosiveness. Again, I'm not saying this is going to happen to James Daniels. I'm not saying that this is his fate, but I do think with that $8 million contract, maybe we should temper our expectations just a little bit with James Daniels and not expect him to be quite the player he was prior to his injury.
It is worth noting that he's not like a 16-game starter or anything for his career. He's been playing half a year, backing up a little bit here and there. So given the other signing we're about to talk about here in a minute, I wouldn't be surprised if we have a rotation of guards this year.
Well, I mean, 21 and 22, he played 17 games, started 17, right? And then it went promptly to 14 out of 15 and 4 out of 4.
Yeah. So, I mean,
oh God, I was looking at the next guy's stats. I'm so sorry. You're right.
Yeah, he's been a full-time starter. But again, this is a solid signing. For $8 million, no matter what, it's a solid signing. Good job by Chris Greer and company. Taylor, do you have any thoughts on this one?
I love this signing. I'm right there with you guys. I had him penciled in as a mid-tier starter. I love this guy's film. This dude, Keith, you nailed it. Like, the way he is in the run blocking game, it is something to behold. And considering what Aaron Brewer has done, I am going to love seeing highlights of Brewer and James Daniels just bulldozing people.
Yeah, for those that are into fantasy, pick up Dolphins running backs, because if Daniels can stay healthy, it's going to be a fun year for the run game.
And I had him as a mid-tier starter, even considering the Achilles injury. And you guys talked about, like, oh, yeah, this is his one big injury, full-time starter before that, 100% accurate. But it's, to me, we did this whole thing for 2 months, right? Setting the table for free agency, for the draft. What did Dolphins need? And all 4 of us were in agreement, like, we need somebody to set the tone. We need somebody to bring a little bit of nastiness to both the offense and the defense. I'm not saying James Daniels solves everything with that. He doesn't. But he is a good step in the right direction. Because
it's a start.
I love the play style.
Yeah. Absolutely. Josh, any final thoughts on James Daniels?
Nope. I think you guys hit it right out of the park. This guy is the best free agent signing we had so far, in my opinion.
I would agree with that, actually. But we're going to move on to the Dolphins' next free agent signing, and that's, that guy was assigned to me, Larry Borum. From the Chicago Bears. Now, look, he's a 5th-round pick from Missouri. He's 26 years old. He still has room to grow. He's never been a full-time starter in the NFL. He's played every position on the offensive line except for center. I think this is a guy that it's a decent signing, but it's also a guy we need to be realistic about. If the Dolphins sign him with the intention of saying, okay, you're our day one starter at right guard or left guard, then this is a bad sign. This is not a signing to get excited about. We still need another starting guard opposite James Daniels. This is a guy that you say you're the first guy off the bench should somebody get hurt. Ideally, one of the guards. If one of the guards get hurt, or if Aaron Brewer gets hurt, James Daniels moves over to center because he has played center in the past, and you're now the guard. This is the first guy off the bench. This is not a guy you pencil in as the starter for the next 17 games. If you do, you're making the same mistake you're making the same mistake that you made with Robert Jones this past season. That's how I feel about Larry Borom. I like the signing, but he is not a starter. And if you're, again, I'm going to reiterate it one more time. If you're expecting him to be the starter for the Miami Dolphins at one of the guard spots, yeah, then you're wrong, Josh. Sorry, you're wrong.
Yeah, I think you're wrong too, Josh. There's no way this guy's starting.
Look, I'm looking. The only reason I say this, I'm not saying that, obviously I hope we draft someone to start.
Yeah.
But I'm saying if the board doesn't fall right and we can't get somebody, and this guy has to start at guard. I've watched his tape at guard. At tackle, this dude is a train wreck. He's got like historically short arms and wingspan, which for a tackle doesn't work. But with his strength, I mean, he was like, I forgot what his percentile was in strength. He's a strong dude and he's quick. And at the guard position, when you have to play in a phone booth, if you put him in between Brewer and where I think he will play on the right side of the line as a guard, I think he could do not serviceable well. I think he could be better than serviceable, right? He could be an average NFL starter, which is something that we can't say we've had in a couple of years at the guard position. He is better than anything we put on the field at the guard position last year. Anything. He's better than anything we put on the field at the guard position the previous year.
Well, Robert Hunt was better.
Oh, I thought that was 3 years ago.
No.
Or was Hunt 2 years? Okay. Yeah. Outside of Hunt, he's better than anything. Sorry. I thought we had 2 years with we were 2 years removed from Robert Hunt. My fault. But you put him at tackle, we're screwed. I mean, don't put him at, I'd rather not play anyone than put him at tackle, or play your guy, your favorite guy. Jackson Carman. Yeah. Because that's about the quality of tackle that Borom is. Yeah. But at the guard position, there is, if you watch the film, there are things to like. I'm not saying he's going to be a key starter or a top NFL player at that position, but he won't lose you games. Fair enough. I think is something we can't say that we've had.
That's fair, Josh. I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah.
We can do better.
Of course. Oh, 1000%. Yeah.
I'm just fast forwarding in my mind to week 1 when he loses us the game and Josh is raging.
Yeah.
Well, I will be honest. I will take it on the chin just like I did Jillian Hill.
Yeah. All right. So Anthony, what are your thoughts on Larry Borom?
Yeah, not much here. I think, one trend that Josh alluded to earlier is that there's a trend amongst free agency for our team this year, and it's been depth. If you look at the contracts, you follow the money. We are not paying starter money to virtually anybody that we signed outside of maybe James Daniels, but even that could be considered not starter money, $8 million a year. We don't know the contract details on this one yet, I don't think, but I can't imagine it's going to be high. So
yeah. Taylor, what are your thoughts on Larry Borom?
I think this is a guard depth. I don't want to see this man anywhere near playing tackle. I hope he doesn't, because you guys kind of nailed it. He's got strengths, Josh. I think you said he's got some quickness to him as well. I like the size. It's just everything else really about him. It screams like depth player right now.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying like he can possibly, maybe he can develop into something like Josh was saying, but to me, this is depth. Still need another starting guard, whether that be through the draft or for agency. I prefer the draft just because, that is a deep class.
Yeah.
Yeah, and please understand, for those that watch this and for you guys, I am not saying that he is who I hope starts.
Okay.
I'm just saying if we can't draft one, or the board falls, or we end up in the 3rd round and that's when we take a guard, for example.
Yeah.
And we can't sign another veteran, we're not screwed. We're not in the best position, but we're not screwed.
We're not screwed. I agree with you, Josh, but going into this offseason, Mike McDaniel and Chris Greer, they intimated a commitment to fixing this guard position.
Mm-hmm.
If you start Larry Borom at guard week 1, barring injuries and everything, if Larry Borom's your starter at guard in week 1, you have failed. I'm going to be sharpening my pitchfork, and I'm going to be coming for you.
Right.
That's how I feel about it.
And I will say this: if our offense somehow gets back on track, you don't need them to do much for long, right?
Yeah.
Which is a benefit for us too.
True.
I do
We're
wonder
going to
what
move
the
on
plan.
to what's that, Anthony?
I do wonder what the plan for Patrick Paul is. I know that we
Mhm.
would all desire him to be a tackle, but perhaps they're under some assumption that Teron Armstead's going to come back and that they're going to slide him in, and then they're going to put Daniels on the other side. And,
My one problem with Patrick Paul at guard, Anthony, is that I think he's just too big to be a guard.
You think he's too tall? Right?
Yeah.
He plays
Yeah,
high.
I agree with you, but I'm just saying, like, if we're talking about them committing to fixing this room and they have all these pieces and they're like, okay, which 5 pieces make the best line? Even the tall Patrick Paul is probably better than this guy.
What is he, like 6'7"? Is that right?
Patrick Paul's
Something
6'8".
Jesus.
Oh, man, too tall Paul.
He is a massive, massive human being.
Did you ever see the picture, Keith, of him standing next to Devon Achane in practice?
Yeah, I have. But that's the thing, like, our quarterback is not a big guy.
Mhm.
How's he supposed to see over
Just don't throw
a guy? Yeah. There we go.
Maybe they want to slide Austin Jackson in as he gets back from his injury. I don't know.
Maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we'll see what happens, but I don't think they're done at the guard position. Hopefully they aren't done at the guard position, whether it be the draft or free agency. We'll see what there is to come from that. But there was a room in the Dolphins facility that, once the dust settled, it was very barren. And one of these guys, well, they signed a couple of guys at this room. First guy, Taylor's going to take you through right now. And I'm not even going to try and pronounce his name. Good luck to you.
Fatu Melifonwu?
Melifonwu.
Woo, yeah.
Melifonwu.
Yep.
6'3",
Nice
210 pounds. His former team, the Detroit Lions, a 3rd-round pick in 2021. He is going to be about 26 years old around the start of the 2025 season. This is a former cornerback turned safety. He transitioned to safety after his rookie season. He kind of struggled with injuries throughout his entire career, including an ankle injury during training camp in 2024 that took him out for the majority of the season. I think he only played a total of 3 games. In terms of the contract details, 1 year, $4 million. I don't think anything else has come out about that. But I think what you're getting with Melifonwu is a player who you could put in the box. He is very good at blitzing, actually. I was kind of surprised there. But I like the ball instincts as well. Like this guy is a playmaker when he's on the field. The big flaw that I saw, and this is something that I'm pretty sure everybody already gets here, when he's on the field. This guy, this is a glass cannon right here. This is, hey, there's potential. There's a lot of upside, especially as a starter here. But can you trust him to actually play?
Yeah. Yeah, and that's been a theme of this free agent class, honestly. Like, when you look at James Daniels, when you look at this, there's other guys coming up, like, can he stay on the field? That's been the biggest thing. I agree with you, Taylor. I'm wondering if this isn't the guy where you say, hit the weight room. We're going to lock you in the weight room, and we're not going to let you out for 2 months. And, you're going to put on 15 pounds of muscle.
That is kidnapping, Keith.
I mean, it's light kidnapping.
I mean, it's, you can't prove that, Taylor.
So light kidnapping, I guess.
Anthony, what are your thoughts on this guy?
Yeah, I mean, 1 year, $4 million. He's a depth piece. He has good size. He's young. This is exactly the type of guy I'm hoping we're looking at to be the backup role, right? Like, this dude's 6'3", 210 pounds. And to your point, if he puts on another 10 pounds and he's playing at 6'3", 220, that's like getting hit by a linebacker, especially with the amount of speed he can pick up coming from the safety. I think, this is like a win-win situation here. You can't really lose. If worse comes to worse, he doesn't pan out, it's $4 million. Who cares?
Yeah. Agreed.
Wouldn't it be nice to be able to just say that in our regular lives? It's $4 million. Who cares?
Yeah.
Oh, wait, you can't? I mean,
no, I'm not there yet, buddy. We need a couple more viewers.
Yeah.
Like and subscribe. No, I'm kidding.
Josh, what are your thoughts on this guy? Melifonwu.
Yeah, I mean, Fatu Melifonwu. Boom. Mike Jones.
Nailed it. But
Well
he can't say Hufunga.
Yeah, I figured that one out. It's the first name. It's his first name that trips me up. I actually like this guy as a starter, right? I mean, he's a glass cannon. We've said it. We know what he is, right? The reason I like him as a starter is because to what Taylor and Anthony and Keith, you guys alluded to. He's fast, he's big, he's smart, and he gets his hands on balls. If you look at his interception productions for the last 4 years with Detroit, it's two. Oh, it's only two. Wait a minute. I thought he had more than that. Never mind. But
wrong guy. Wrong guy.
Yeah,
wrong
guy.
Wrong guy.
Think of the safety.
But either way, right? I mean, he's always around the ball, right? When we signed him, I went back and watched his like highlights in his film and some all 22 tape on him. And when he was on the field, he was always around the ball. He was always where he needed to be. He was always willing to hit the hole hard and fast and put his shoulder into no matter who it was. I mean, I watched something where he laid out Derrick Henry. He by himself, not group tackled. He tackled Derrick Henry above the waist and put him on his back. Anybody that can do that is a great safety in my book. And you can see it. He's very cerebral. The problem, and again, I don't mean to beat the dead horse with a stick, is if he's on the field, right?
Yeah. And I mean, so we had the same concerns, and I'm just saying this, just tossing this out there. We had the same concerns about Jordan Brooks when he came over last year. Same concerns about Jordan Brooks. And Jordan Brooks figured it out and had a borderline Pro Bowl season, in my opinion. Maybe it's a popularity contest, man.
I know.
But, he was very good, probably the MVP of the Dolphins defense last year. This is a guy that I believe has that kind of potential should he stay healthy. We're going to move on to another safety signing. It's actually a re-signing. So, Josh, take us through this guy.
Yeah, so Elijah Campbell is back. It's a 1 year, $1.9 million. I mean, again, we said it earlier, money kind of talks, right? I think he's being brought back because he's been in the system. He's been in Miami for the last 4 years. He's been, I don't know, serviceable, right? I mean, he's, I think, primarily a special teams player for us, and plays that kind of fourth safety role. So that's a good, we need that, right? We need special team players. We need players that are going to come in and play that role. And he does it with a smile on his face, right? Without complaining. My gut is telling me that, I mean, obviously we signed a few more players in that, or one more player in that room, and then we'll probably draft one high. And we have a couple coming back some that were rookies last year and stuff. So I think he probably comes in. There's a competition for the second safety position next to Melifonwu, who I think will start, as long as he doesn't get injured between now and the season. I don't know. It's okay, cool. Hey, he's back. Great. Next, right? That's where I'm at.
Fair enough. I like the signing. He's been a solid player, a really good special teams contributor, and these are things that are underrated. You don't think about how a guy can be a great gunner on special teams. Look, as Patriots fans, oh god, now he's the guy who's he was a gunner for years. Matthew
Slater.
Matthew Slater. Yes, thank you. Brain fart on that one. Yeah, ask Patriots fans what they thought of Matthew Slater his entire career. Dude didn't contribute on defense or offense, but on special teams, he was a standout. And I'm not saying Elijah Campbell is that kind of quality player on special teams, but he's been good on special teams, and he's been a captain on special teams. And this is the kind of guy that helps solidify locker rooms.
Yeah, he's a plain bagel with cream cheese, right?
Yes,
it's great. It's good. It's just nothing to write home about.
I love plain bagel. I love plain bagel with cream cheese.
Me too.
With schmear.
Yeah, please don't take my indifference with thinking that he's a bad player, right? To your point, Keith, he's primarily on special teams. He does his job. He does it well. Yeah. Thanks for coming back. Right.
All right. So we're going to finish out the safety room here. We signed yet another safety. And I'm going to go to Anthony for this one.
Hey, speaking of special teams, do you guys like special teams? Because Ashton Davis, the safety, our newly minted safety from the New York Jets, has primarily been a special teams player in his career thus far. I think I'm seeing a kind of a trend here in size, though, and we're starting to see Anthony Weaver bring in the guys that he prefers. Now, 6'3" Melifonwu at 210. Now we got 6'1" Ashton Davis at 202. Weaver likes taller safeties, right? And I think Davis and Melifonwu probably will have a camp battle here to see who gets the second starting safety spot. Who the heck knows who's going to be the other starting safety? I hope it's not these two as the starters because that'll be troublesome.
Yeah.
One good year, though. Sophomore season, he actually got a chance to start. He started 10 games the sophomore season. He pulled in 2 interceptions, 3 pass deflections, 3 forced fumbles, and 62 tackles. That's a pretty good year for a guy who hadn't really hadn't started at safety at any other time in the NFL. In his career, 8 interceptions in 4 years. That's pretty impressive for a part-time player. So I think he's brought in for his ball skills. Hopefully we can see some of that for Miami because we surely need it.
Yeah. He picked off Dolphins last year.
Did he really?
And, yep.
A few times.
At MetLife.
His highlights, his highlights are very, not very Dolphin-centric, but it's more than you'd like to see.
So I remember this guy coming out of, I believe he went to Cal for college. He went to Cal. And I remember him coming out of Cal, and I wanted him. I wanted him bad. I thought that he was a guy that looked – now, he looks like Tarzan, and he sometimes plays like Jane. But this guy – he's a big physical dude. I think if he's utilized correctly, I think my one issue with this signing personally is he kind of does the same things well that Melifonwu does. He kind of plays the same in the box position. That's what he does well that Melifonwu does. So we still need a center fielder.
I think that's why they're in a competition though. I think he brought in 2 guys that he feels fits in the box safety mold. Yeah. And maybe we're looking to draft the other guy or something. I don't know. Yeah.
So Taylor, what are your thoughts on Ashton Davis?
That's interesting too, because not to fully get into, I don't want to get into the draft conversation, but if this is a competition for the box safety, does that take somebody like Nick Amarari from South Carolina?
I
apologize. But does that take somebody like him off the board for us?
Yeah, it does. Unfortunately, it does. But that doesn't take. But that leaves us like Malachi Starks, for example.
Which is what I was going to get into because we didn't get a chance to fully get into it. No, it's fine. You segued right into it. Perfect co-hosting there. Because
nailed it, guys.
We had the Georgia Pro Day today, and the Dolphins were in attendance. Chris Greer, Mike McDaniel, Anthony Weaver, all there. So I kind of wanted to wait till we got through the safeties to talk about it. This room is getting addressed. Josh, I'm sure you were ecstatic about it, considering your thoughts, let's put it that way, on Jordan Poyer. But this room's starting to come together a little bit. It's not like big names, but it's names that I kind of like the James Daniels signing a bit, where you're like, okay, I see the vision that Weaver's going for here, and I like that vision. Let's see if it ends up working out, and let's see what we do in the draft and the rest of free agency.
And the other thing is you've seen what Weaver can do, right, with developing players. I mean, look at Brooks, look at Sealer, not that Sealer wasn't already great, but you look at the defense as a whole. I have to believe that he had a say in who he was bringing onto his defense. So he has no reason. Like Mike McDaniel deserves a little bit of question on who he brings in on the offensive side. I have no reason to question Weaver yet. So if he thinks that these two, and I never looked at it that way, but it makes total sense that these two come in, battle for that one inbox, and the other one is the third kind of rotational. Makes total sense. Total sense, right?
Yeah, I agree. This if they play a dime package, they both play. Otherwise, the starter plays. Exactly. Probably Melifonwu, in my opinion. Yeah. But this is.
You think Melifonwu wins the starting job?
I do. I think he's the more talented player.
That's what the money says too.
Yeah, true. True. But as far as these guys go, they do play the same kind of position. And to was it Josh's point? That probably knocks us out of the Nick Emenwari sweepstakes, who I love coming out of college. He's great in the box safety. So we still need our center fielder. Hopefully they address that coming up. Position that we all addressed, that we all thought was a need going into free agency that was addressed was wide receiver. We wanted a big wide receiver, a bigger wide receiver. Not a Musha Muhammad, big, but like a guy who's over 6 foot. So In response to that, the Dolphins brought in Nick Westbrook-Ikhine, a 6'2", 211-pound wide receiver from the Tennessee Titans. Now, this is a guy who has struggled to stay healthy at times, but he's great at identifying zones. He's got great hands, great concentration, and he's actually made some really big plays for the Titans, including a 98-yard touchdown reception against the Vikings last year, in which, the safety cut in front of him, and he kept on running and had the wherewithal to know this safety's not getting to this ball. I'm going to catch it. I'm going to take it to the house. So I think it's a great signing. I'm a huge fan, but he's going to be 28 years old for at the start of the season. And again, this is a guy that has never been a number one option. He's never been a number two option. He's rarely ever been a number three option in his offense, which kind of makes him perfect for the Dolphins offense because he's going to come in and be behind Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and Jonnu Smith and Devon Achane and other guys in the pecking order. He's not going to be a number one option. He's going to be a guy. He's going to be a Johnny on the spot, and a guy who you toss it up to in the red zone, maybe a fade, or a guy who identifies a zone in the red zone. This is a solid signing, unspectacular, but solid. Guy had 9 touchdown catches last year. Also, guys. On
Tennessee.
Yeah, on Tennessee. 9 touchdown catches on 32 receptions. That is insane efficiency right there. Does anybody have any thoughts on Nick Westbrook-Ikhine?
Yeah, I think my favorite attribute of his game is his blocking.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, is he a good 50-50 ball guy? He's tall, he's fast. Yes, that's exactly what we needed in this room for positional diversity, which is something we've beat to death on this show, right? If you go back and watch his tape at when Derrick Henry was there, right, and you look at how they lined him up offset of the tackle in most cases, and on numerous of Henry's and other running backs' big runs, he's pulling a Michael Orr from the blind side, right? Yeah. On the safety or on the linebacker at his size, and it's not even close. I mean, he's putting his head into the sternum of the defender and pushing him out of bounds over the fence and onto the bus. Go home. And that is exactly what you want in your big, tall number 3 wide receiver. And what have we said in this offense? What does this offense require their wide receivers to do more than anything else? Block
on the edge.
You have to block on the edge, especially if we are going to be stubbornly headstrong on screen passes as an extension of the run game yet again, which I think I can speak for all of us and say, I hope not. But he brings that tenacity and that dog mentality that you see everyone saying we need to get more dogs. Well, we just got one, and I'm just like you, Keith. I was ecstatic when I saw this pop up on my phone.
Really good signing. Taylor, you have any thoughts on Westbrook-Ikhine?
A lot of what Josh said, I want to add on here. One of my favorite parts of his game was that 2-month run he had last season where he scored a touchdown in nearly every game from October through November. Nice. He was a lock for me on Underdog. So props to him for that. And hopefully he has a few touchdowns.
Yeah.
Hey, we're open for it.
Anthony, any thoughts on Nick Westbrook-Ikhine?
This is exactly who I was looking for. I mean, not the name, but the type of player, the budget that we paid for him. Like when I did my wide receiver breakdown a few weeks ago, I talked about how there's a trend that 6'2" wide receivers are like the sweet spot, and we got ourselves a sweet spot wide receiver for $3 million a year. This is exactly what I was hoping they would do at this spot, and so pretty ecstatic about it. I hope he stays healthy because Jesus, our wide receiver room is banged up as always.
But, just the contract details real quick. A 2-year, $6.5 million contract, $3.2 million to guaranteed. Sweetheart of a price for a player of his caliber, in my opinion.
This likely means we're looking at the draft for somebody. I mean, we got 11 draft picks, so, we're probably picking up somebody in the later rounds or so.
Also, just that guard market that we talked about earlier, where we talked about Aaron Banks and Will Fries, that wide receiver market was rough to look at, too.
It was.
John Palmer. And who did Patriots get? Patriots got somebody that was a wild deal too. That wasn't Matt Collins, but the wide receiver market was like $8 to $10 million per receiver. So to see Ikhine go for what is a very cheap contract is awesome to see.
Yeah, very team friendly. So we've basically hit on the big guys. Matt Dickerson was re-signed to the Dolphins. I don't think any of us really have much of an opinion on that guy. He when like Anthony said, like Anthony said in our group chat, this is the guy who, when we went through our our season breakdown after the season, Matt Dickerson didn't even get an honorable mention. Like, we didn't even say his name. So look, he's a nice depth piece. Welcome back, Matt Dickerson. I wouldn't be able to pick you out of a lineup, but excited to have you here. Next is Quentin Bell, a guy who was a depth piece on the edge for us this past year. 29 years old, start of the season. He's kind of been a practice squad guy, bouncing around from place to place.
By the way, just one thing on him I wanted to say. Sorry.
Yeah.
This feels like it's like a Weaver project to me. It feels like this is somebody he's trying to coach up, because Quentin Bell played barely any downs for anybody he ever played for, and then he played 17 games for us last year. So I think Weaver's looking at this guy as maybe I can coach him up into a solid contributor.
Yeah, he was big on special teams though.
Yeah, and he did play some defensive snaps, especially towards the end of the season, and he held his own. I will say that for him. He held his own. He's not a guy. I don't think any of us want to see him on the field too often this year, because that means one of Bradley Chubb or Jalen Phillips or Chop Robinson has gotten hurt again. He's not a guy we want to see too much of, but if we see him 5 to 10 snaps a game, I'm not going to be upset.
He's a good take-a-breather guy. Yeah, he's good.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Anybody else have any thoughts on Quentin Bell? Okay,
0.
we're gonna move on to a guy who the Dolphins re-signed this morning, Tyrel Dodson. Now, Tyrel Dodson came in mid-season after being cut by the Seattle Seahawks. Wasn't a fit there. He spent 4 years in Buffalo terrorizing us, and then he went to Seattle. Came to Miami last year, played 8 games for us, and did a decent job of stepping in when the Dolphins cut David Long Jr. And he kind of split time with he played next to Jordan Brooks and split time with Anthony Harris. And again, decent job, admirable job, kind of a third linebacker type of guy, in my opinion. I don't think we want to go into the season with him as our starter, but I like having him on the roster. Taylor, do you have any thoughts on Tyrel Dodson?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of this signing here. Dre Greenlaw was somebody that Miami was reportedly after. He ends up going to Denver. Hufanga also goes to Denver, so they just picked up a few players that a bunch of Miami fans wanted, including us.
At those guys who are already solid defense.
Yeah, Denver's doing
pretty
some
real,
stuff.
man.
Yeah.
But Dotson, like, you look at, I think all 4 of us here were impressed with what we saw at Dotson. It was like a nice, let's bring him back. Let's see what he could really do. Is at least a backup option, possibly the linebacker too. But I will say, you do look at his stats whenever he got to Seattle and then with Miami. It's a pretty good season overall.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It is a pretty good season overall. I guess it wasn't a fit in Seattle. I'm not entirely sure why they cut him loose.
It seemed like it was a shock move.
Well, I don't think they know what they were doing.
Well, we cut loose David Long Jr. because he was really, really bad. And Anthony, especially, you had pointed out, after every game, how many tackles this guy missed. He was really bad. So we had reasons. What were Seattle's reasons? I don't know. Anthony, what are your thoughts on Tyrel Dodson?
Yeah, I love the move. I was really hoping we'd bring him back. I mean, geez, the guy had he had 3 interceptions for us. He barely played. His first game, he intercepted the ball. It was insane. It was great. A great depth piece. I don't know if I would mind him starting or not. We didn't see him as a starter for us, really, so I don't really have an opinion on that. I would love to add more depth there. We obviously need to. We only have Dodson and Brooks right now. Playing linebacker for us,
and
but yeah,
we have Anthony Harris too, I think, right?
Well, we had Anthony Walker Jr., but he's
Anthony Walker. Yeah,
he's a free agent. Yeah.
Is he?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I thought he was coming back. All right. Josh, what are your thoughts on Tyrel Dodson?
He was one of the few that free of our free agents that I wanted back unequivocally, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think could he start at LB2? Sure. Do you want him to? Probably not, right?
Yeah.
But he's a great depth piece. He's, to Anthony's point, his first game on the field, I think it was like the second week after we acquired him off waiver wires. He has an interception. He always seems to be around the ball. He's put up pretty good statistics in previous years. It was a shock when Seattle cut him, right? And I think Seattle, they were doing some crazy things, right, with their linebacker room specifically. They cut him. They traded a fourth for some guy. Only
and
keep
it worked
him.
Out. That's so wild about it. Like, they had Jerome Baker. They end up with Tyrell Dotson as well, and then they end up trading Jerome Baker for Ernest Jones the fourth.
Mm-hmm.
And Ernest Jones ends up being a great linebacker, but for some reason they let go with Dotson. It's such a wild turn of events that Seattle still ended up working out with him. And
I think I think it worked out for us too, because I think we got a solid player, right? Again, in my opinion, not a full-time starter yet. I'm not saying he can't be, but we got a solid player, and I was really bummed that if we weren't gonna re-sign him.
I can't believe he had 107 tackles last year.
Yeah.
Wild.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy.
And the only 3 interceptions of his career came with the Dolphins.
Nailed it.
He likes this defense, apparently.
Yeah. All right. So, that was a good signing. So out there in the chat, I know there's not many people joining us in the live right now, but in the comments, please leave your thoughts on the free agents, your thoughts on these guys. We will comment back. We'll be checking the comments. And please let us know what you think about these guys. Now, I do have one more question for you guys, and I'm wondering, what else do we need? What else do you want to see in free agency? Because I'd like to see another guard, whether it be a starter or a backup. I'd like to see another starter so the Dolphins could go like a best player available type of mentality in the first round of the draft. But I understand if that's not in the cards right now. Personally, I'd like to see another guard and maybe a big running back. I don't know. But I'd like to know what you guys want to see the Dolphins do with the remainder of their free agency. Anthony, I'll start with you.
Gosh, dude, I was writing down like the list of needs, and it's still super long. We haven't addressed most of them at this point, and I know this one's a little lower on the totem pole, but there's one name that I see on the free agent list, like you get all these people doing these top available. Mm-hmm. Azeez Ojulari is still available. If we can grab this guy, dude, like the rotation at edge rusher would be absolutely unbelievable. He's not a full-time edge rusher. That's why the Giants didn't re-sign him. They drafted him to be a full-time edge rusher. He didn't work out, but his situational edge rushing is fantastic, which is exactly what we need when we have guys who are often injured. We need rotational guys who can go in for a couple plays and make an impact. And Azeez Ojulari, I mean, he's that guy for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind seeing him here. I know we got into a big debate over Joey Bosa. And I was kind of out on an island on that one. Felt like you guys were ganging up on me a little bit.
We're on your side now. He's a
No, I'm just kidding.
No, but I will say this. It was not about Bosa. It was about the position for me, right?
Yeah.
And we definitely need to add to that room, to Anthony and to your point in the chat, right? Bosa was the name, right? Because he brought name recognition, but I don't give a crap who it is. We just need to add someone.
I will say like, the most likely scenario is we do what we've done in the past few years with Greer and McDaniel is that we pick up a guy after June 1st. Maybe Dante Fowler. Maybe we bring Agba back. I don't know. It's going to be
Judon?
One of those guys.
I love Judon as a situational pass rusher.
Yeah, Judon too. Yeah.
DeMarcus Lawrence. There are a ton
he
of guys.
He just signed today.
Did he really?
Did
he got a big contract.
Really?
Yeah.
Who did he
like
get
3
to?
years, $48 million or something like that. It was pretty big.
Jesus.
Where did he go to?
I don't even remember. That's how good my memory is.
I'm looking it up right now because.
Well, why you
the
guys?
Seahawks 3-year deal with the Seahawks?
Yep. All right. So fair enough. DeMarcus Lawrence is out. Never mind.
That's way more money than I thought he was going to get. By the way.
Me too. I thought he was going to get I thought he was going to get a Joey Bosa type of deal. Honestly, a 1 year, $12 million contract. He's 33 years old. He's 4 years older than Joey Bosa. Josh, who would you like to see the Dolphins get in free agency?
Yeah, I have a couple names at the guard position that I would really love to see one of them come in. That's Brandon Scherf or Greg Van Roten. I've been a big fan of Greg Van Roten since last offseason. He was the guy I was banging the table on. If you guys remember, I wanted him to be brought in. I think he would be phenomenal, and he would be an instant starter at the right guard position, in my opinion. Brandon Scherf, a little older, seasoned veteran, knows what he's doing. Worst case scenario, you bring somebody like that in, you feel somewhat comfortable, at least more comfortable than Larry Borum, right? I mean, I think we can agree. I like Judon. Judon is a guy that I keep coming back to, maybe wait till phase, the third phase of free agency, see if you can lock him up on a 2-year, which is probably really more of a 1-year deal. Call it $8 million a season or something like that, $6 million a season. Just bring him and get him into the building and see what you have in him. Because when he was in his early years in New England, that dude was a monster, right? I mean, he knew where to be at all times, and I think having someone like that as like a break glass in case of emergency starter would be better than like Emmanuel Ogbah, right?
Bro, he tore us up. He was always wearing red sleeves too, so I always knew where he was in the lineup. I was like, here he comes.
He was hard to miss.
Yeah, and I think the last position I would really love to see us kind of look at is the D tackle, right? I mean, whether I know there have been rumors that Miami has contacted Campbell and said, "Hey, we'd like to see you back." Calais Campbell is kind of deciding on his future, but there are some names out there, none of which I'm a huge fan of, but I got to admit I don't really I'm not really well versed in quite a lot of these defensive tackles that are free agents, but there's got to be one that fits Weaver's system. And I think, getting a veteran, I also think that as a position we should make sure to address early in the draft. But if you can get a veteran in next to, as a rotational player, even next to Steeler, I think that would ease minds, at least mine,
Yeah.
This has been such a heavily signed defensive tackle free agency class. If you look through the list, I mean, almost all of them have signed already. It's insane.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The Eagles' momentum in that Super Bowl really shifted things for teams, I guess.
Yeah. And we talked about Milton Williams getting that big deal from the Patriots. Jonathan Allen got a huge deal.
He sure did.
$20 million a year, dude.
These guys, and that's too rich for our blood. Like I know we weren't going to be in the market for Jonathan Allen or Milton Williams. So they were just going to be making too much money. But it really drives home the point where it's like, geez, they got.
You're seeing Kinlaw and Hargrave also get paid too.
Yep, exactly.
Nothing against it. It's just
even Greedy.
Like you were saying, Keith, that market is wild.
Yeah, even Grady Jarrett got 43 mil.
The day after he was released, or the day he was released, it was crazy. We could bring back big boy Raekwon Davis. You guys remember him?
I'd rather not.
Taylor, who do you have in mind as far as the rest of the free agency goes?
I'm gonna stick to the defense mostly here. In terms of edge, you guys brought up a lot of great names. Some name I just want to bring up here, a little different compared to some of the guys we got. Preston Smith.
Yeah,
okay.
Good one.
More of a power rusher, brings something, like I said, a little different from the explosive, speedy guys that we have currently. In terms of interior D lineman, Calais Campbell would be a great get. He's one of the few players whenever I was looking at free agents to whereas, he's in his late 30s. Doesn't matter. I'm good.
No, the way he played for us last year, he played like he was 28. Like, okay.
Yeah. Whereas, Josh, you brought up Sheriff. I like Brendan Sheriff, but he's getting on up there in age, and that's something to where I don't know if I'd be that interested in personally, but I get the appeal. I really do. At cornerback, just two names to throw out there: Asante Samuel Jr. and Rasul Douglas.
It's crazy to me that Samuels Jr. is still unsigned. It is crazy too.
Me too.
Yeah. Rasul Douglas, I'll push back on a little bit, Taylor. I don't think he has much left in the tank. He was never a guy that was super fast to begin with, and he lost a step last year, and it showed, especially towards the end of the season. Teams picked on him a lot.
122 QB rating against him last year.
Yeah.
I mean, we can bring back
2023 is
Noah.
I was looking at 2023. I wasn't really paying attention to what Rasul Douglas was doing last season.
2023, he was a borderline Pro Bowler. He might have actually been a Pro Bowler in 2023, but last year he regressed. And again, he was a guy who was drafted by the Eagles, and he kind of spent a lot of time as a dime quarter, package cornerback, and then he went to the Bills and kind of just took off and really, really made a name for himself. But again, this is a guy who is more of a bigger physical guy, never super fast. And when these guys lose a step, you really see it. It really shows because they weren't all that fast to begin with. But Asante Samuel Jr., I wouldn't mind knocking on his door a little bit. Anthony, you had one more guy you want to talk about?
Yeah, I do wonder if Asante Samuel's just priced himself out of the market or something. It's kind of crazy he's not signed at this point. Just if they want to revisit safety room again, I saw Justin Simmons is still out there, who played at a high level again last year for the Falcons.
Yeah.
And then Julian Blackmon's out there too. So, two safeties to keep an eye on.
That's a good name.
Yeah. All right. So we are at the hour and 20-minute mark. I think we've gone through everything in free agency that we were hoping to, unless there's anything else you guys want to talk about.
No, sir. Maybe bring Nick Chubb in. You never know.
Hey, crazy things. Crazy things.
So with that being said, we're at the hour and 20-minute mark, which is great because now we have times for takes from the deep end. Josh,
let's do it. All right. So for those of you that aren't aware, right, this is where we take some time and we go over hot takes that were submitted by our fans. I gather them. I get them all ready and prettied up, and I present them to our my wonderful, amazing co-hosts, and we talk about them. And we got some good ones today, fellas. I'm really excited. Hang tight. We'll be right back.
Takes from the deep end.
All right, fellas. It's takes from the deep end time. So just as a recap, again, one more time, these are not our takes. These are not our opinions. These are gathered from our fans, from comments on our videos, from live comments on our shows, and from all of our social medias. So the first one will go to you, Taylor. Takes from the deep end. How would you grade Chris Greer's free agency so far? Ooh. You know what? This is to everyone. We'll start with Taylor.
That's a real tough question.
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie. I had a lot of these players marked as people on my radar, so I can't sit here and be like, "Well, wish they got more big name free agents." This was a middling free agent class, in my opinion. He's done a pretty good job. I really do. I'd give it about a B plus.
Excellent. What about you, Keith?
Without knowing the plan fully fleshed out as to who his other starting guard is going to be. Is it going to be Larry Borum, or is it going to be a guy you draft, or is it going to be a Brandon Sheriff type that you bring in free agency? Without knowing who their center fielder type of safety is going to be, their cornerback too, I have to give him an incomplete right now. I don't have a grade.
Okay.
I don't know what his plan is. Until I know what his plan is fully fleshed out, he doesn't get a grade.
Cool. What about you, Anthony?
Yeah, I was kind of thinking the same thing, but I got to give him a grade, Keith. Come on, we're in the analysis business here.
Yeah.
I would say my instant reaction is a C because we've mostly just signed depth at this point. Not a whole lot of starters, but given the amount of the money that's being handed out in these contracts, I understand why. I think there's something to be said for having your price and sticking to it. But like I said in our group chat, boys, that looks real stupid if you miss the playoffs again because you didn't want to spend up a little bit. So right now, I'll give him an average grade.
And
I changed my grade.
Nope.
Sure, Taylor, go ahead and change it.
No, he can't.
I was going to just say a B just because Keith makes a great point when it comes to, if Larry Borum is the answer at guard, that changes a lot.
Yeah, that grade goes down exponentially.
Yeah, and if it's a depth piece and we're drafting somebody or we're getting somebody later, this is good move, a lot of upside there. So I'm happy saying a B.
I love it. I love it. Excellent. All right, Anthony, coming to you next, buddy.
Let's go.
Takes from the deep end. Word is that the Dolphins spoke to multiple high-quality free agents who signed elsewhere due to the Phins being steadfast in their price point for each player and their unwillingness to budge. Do you like this? Do you
I just
think
commented.
I know. Do you think that this is the right approach?
I just commented on that. Yeah, listen. No, not really, but maybe. So like these are questions that we should save and revisit after like the draft and everything is done, so we can kind of look back and post June 1st, look back and say, hey, did that make sense now that we have the whole picture? Like I said before, this makes a ton of sense. If in your plan you have 5 or 6 guys and you said this is how much we're willing to spend, safety we're willing to spend between maximum $5 million a year. So we sent 4 or 5 guys offers of a $4 million a year contract or whatever, and we got the one guy, Melifon, who was the one guy who wanted that deal. When it looks really stupid is if you went through all this careful planning and put this team together and the team is trash and you miss the playoffs as you watch the Patriots get better. I would say the Jets, but they suck. And, the Bills are going to likely dominate the division again. They've done a lot to get better as well here in this, free agency period so far. We have 11 draft picks though.
Yeah.
Maybe they love this draft. I don't know. Like they could be in their room right now saying, we really love this draft. We're not going to waste money on free agency because we want to try to move up in this draft and get more first rounders, or we want to get more day 2 picks or something like that. I have no idea. But if just think about it, if you go out here having done this whole strategy and then you get fired next offseason, are you going to feel good about the fact that you were so stingy in this offseason? It is a bold strategy, is what I'll say there.
It's bold strategy, Cotton.
Yeah.
if it works out for him.
Yeah. What about you guys? You guys have any thoughts on this? I mean, do you like this? Do you not like this? I mean,
well, to Anthony's point, you signed Zach Wilson for $6 million. I think we can all agree that Marcus Mariota was a better fit for what the Dolphins are trying to do offensively. Should Tua go out for $2 more million, you could have had Marcus Mariota. There is something to be said about drawing your line in the sand and saying this is it. I'm not going any higher than this. But it feels like they're kind of going from one extreme to the other. Yeah. And also to Anthony's point, y'all might not have a job next season.
Yeah.
You're gonna really be kicking yourself as you're sitting on your couch next season saying, wow, this next guy's spending all the money that I saved this offseason.
Getting a thank you card from your next
Yeah.
What about you, Taylor?
I think it's tough because I agree with Keith and Anthony here generally. But if you look at the context of this free agency class, that's where it gets a little muddy. And that's not to say that Milton Williams isn't going to be good. There's a very good chance he ends up being great for the Patriots, right? But you look at his production, aside from the highlight plays he was making for the Eagles in the Super Bowl run they had, he's still somewhat like a projection was kind of rotating in and out, didn't have the crazy snap count as somebody like Christian Wilkins the year prior, but got paid along the lines of Christian Wilkins, Yeah. And that's kind of what it is across the board. Like there was names that I wish we did go after, like Hufanga, but you look at Drake Greenlaw being the top linebacker, one of the top linebackers, because a lot of them got re-signed right before free agency. And Greenlaw's coming off an Achilles injury, and, there's still questions there. So I agree generally, but this class leaves a lot to be desired.
Yeah, and my only thought was that they were leaning into it. The philosophy they were leaning heavily into was we got to get younger.
Yeah,
at key positions, and
the crazy part is that like these guys made so much more money than I thought they would. When we were doing like picking out free agents we wanted to target, I was trying to carefully pick guys who I didn't think would make a ton of money. And then Hufanga signs for $15 million a year. Paulson Adebo signs a huge contract, which is wild.
Ian Fries, I thought he was going to average like no more than 10.
Yeah, we were talking about Milton Williams signing for 10 to 12. He signed for 26. Like it's been absolutely nuts.
Yeah. Will Fries was a guy like Josh and I know you and I we identified him early on in free agency, and he got double what I thought he was going to get.
He got quadruple what I thought he was going to get. I mean, or triple. I can't do math.
And Taylor, to your point with Milton Williams, like Milton Williams also had the benefit of playing next to the best defensive tackle in the NFL last year.
Yep.
He played, so he had Jalen Carter next to him eating up every single one of those double teams. So if you're not eating, then there's something wrong with you because,
I will say I'm kind of happy we stayed away from the Philadelphia, attraction there because Milton Williams looked way better, like you said, but Josh Sweat looked way better too.
Yes.
Josh Sweat's been around for a while.
Absolutely.
He's never looked that good. And then all of a sudden he's on an incredible defensive line and he looks amazing and he goes and gets paid too.
Yeah.
And if you want to go away from the Eagles of it all, look at somebody like Aaron Banks. Went from the Niners to the Packers, got paid massively to do so.
Yep.
And I don't know about you guys. He was somebody on my board that I had very low. Like, I hope the Dolphins don't go after him. I saw that contract. It was like, well, no matter what we did not pay Aaron Banks. I'll take it.
I like it. All right, Keith, you're getting the next one, bud.
All right, let's do it.
And this kind of goes right into this take, what we were just talking about. Takes from the deep. The diamonds in the rough free agent strategy is not a terrible one. However, it does mean that you need to crush the draft. # all or nothing.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
And I agree. And the diamond in the rough thing, like that's kind of what the Dolphins did last year, and they had some hits. Jordan Brooks was a hit. Kendall Fuller was a hit. Calais Campbell hit. They got lucky in that regard last year. They also had a decent draft class last year, in my opinion.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
So, when you bring in Chop Robinson with your first pick, I wasn't happy about it at the time. But after the season, it's like, okay, I can't fault their strategy here. Patrick Paul looks like he could be the left tackle of the future. Jalen Wright's going to be a contributor to this team. Malik Washington. Kamara is a guy who might come on this year. We might see a little bit more from him this year. It was a good draft class. They hit some diamonds in the rough. It was a good off season last year. But is this strategy sustainable?
No.
I don't know.
We'll see. We'll find out real quick. I promise you that.
We'll find out because they're using the same strategy this offseason. Except this year they have more ammo in the draft. So
and more ammo in the cap space, which is crazy to me.
Yeah. So we'll see how this turns out. I don't think they're done in free agency, and the draft is going to just be super interesting. I'm really looking forward to diving deep into that.
Yep. And I got one more for Anthony and one more for Taylor, and then I think we can call it a show tonight, fellas. I really am excited about these last two, though. All right, Anthony, takes from the deep end. If the chance were to present itself, would you pull a trigger on Fred Warner? And if so, what do you think the cost would be?
Oh, that's tough. I mean, how old is he now? I feel like he's been around forever.
I mean, he's still one of the best linebackers in the league, though.
So he's under contract then with the 49ers still?
I believe so. Yeah. I didn't look.
Fred Warner will turn 29 during the season, Anthony.
Jesus, I thought he was like 38. Okay, yeah,
I did great. Too. I feel like he's been around for a day.
Yeah.
Yes. If the opportunity presented itself, I would pull the trigger on that because then we don't have to use a draft pick on that position. Well, what would the cost be? Well, yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
If you're telling me we can get him for a third, I don't think there's a third round pick that's as good as Fred Warner.
No.
If we can get him for a fourth, even better.
Well, let's say it costs. Let's say if we trade back, right, for some reason in the draft, we somehow move down or we acquire a lower second round pick, right? Sure. And that's what they're asking. Would you think that's too much?
No.
Yeah.
Lock me in. Lock me in, baby. Inject it in my veins. Okay.
I like it. It's
Fred Warner, dude.
I know. All right. Super quick. Keith and Taylor, what are your guys' thoughts on this before I move on to the last one?
First round pick, no. Anything after the first round, sign me up.
Perfect. Even our current second round pick?
Yeah, I'd do it.
Yeah. I'm with you. I would do it too.
Fred Warner's that good, man. He's that much of a game changer.
What about you, Taylor?
Wouldn't give up a first or second, but third or later,
okay,
definitely would.
I like it. Awesome. All right, Taylor, coming to you last, buddy. Well, really coming to the group probably. All right, takes on the deep end. I wouldn't mind going out and locking up Keelan Allen. We don't need him to be the number one option here. Just a consistent and polished number 3. Thoughts?
Keenan Allen, the wide receiver.
Yeah. This was probably before. This is probably I might have grabbed this one before the Westbrook and Keenan pick, but I don't think. What are your thoughts?
No, I'm good.
Yeah,
I talked about getting younger, and you talked about that too. Like that's something that I really want the Dolphins to do, and that means like, hey, late in the draft, somebody's there. Sure, pick them up, but I'm good with Westbrook or Keenan as the third, fourth option.
All right. What about you, Keith?
Yeah, I'm with Taylor on this one, but not for the same reasons. Like, if we didn't have a Malik Washington on the team,
fair.
Westbrook or Keenan doesn't play into this. If we didn't have Malik Washington on this team, I would say yeah, because Keenan Allen does most of his work out of the slot. But that's where he does his best work. He's a great route runner. He's got great hands. He's a great locker room guy. Wouldn't mind having him here, but I think that would stunt the growth and development of Malik Washington. And I'm really excited about his prospects in the upcoming season.
I love it. What about you, Anthony? Final thoughts?
On the flip side, boys, our wide receiver room is a freaking kid's playground right now. We need some leadership in there. Tyreek Hill over there, who the hell knows what he's doing, right?
With his tall woman fetish.
Yeah, I mean, we need some real leadership in the wide receiver room. This guy's a part-time player at this point in his career. He really lost a step last year with the Bears. You could see it. I mean, if he was willing to come in and be a rotational guy, I don't know if he would even take that opportunity, but I would definitely be willing to sign him. I think he brings a strong leadership, especially for Jalen. Jalen's looking up to Tyreek now. That's not great. That's not a great person to look up to, in my opinion.
That's not a good look.
And Jalen's going to miss 6 games anyway, so what's the difference? He'll get some playtime.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, fellas. Well, just want a quick shout out. Thank you to all of our fans, all of our viewers, all of our commentators. I can never say that word correctly. For submitting your hot takes on the Dolphins. I will continue to keep an eye out for them, and we will pull them on and we will present them to our host during Takes from the Deep End every show. Thanks, guys.
All right, so we are at the hour and 37-minute mark. My cat wanted to jump up on the table. Hello, Bee. So yeah, we are at the hour and 37-minute mark. It is time to call it a show. Next week, we are going to be welcoming Dudley Do-Wrong to our show. Yes. We're going to be talking free agency. We're going to be talking the draft. We're going to be talking about Miami Dolphins football with one of the guys who has been doing this. He's one of the guys that we idolize. He's one of the guys that we look up to. Yep. He's been doing this for a long time. He does it better than us. We hope to be as good as him someday. And we are thrilled. We are honored to have him on our show. Super looking forward to it. Please tune in next week. If you guys like what you saw tonight, please like, subscribe, make some comments in the chat and in the comments, and we will answer your comments. It was a fun show talking all things free agency. We're going to talk free agency next week with Dudley Do-Wrong. We're going to be talking the draft coming up. Lots of fun content coming up. This is a pivotal offseason for the Miami Dolphins. Such a pivotal offseason. It's time. It's going to be. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Took the wind out of you.
Yeah. So, look, guys, I'd like to get your final thoughts on everything. Taylor, I'll start with you.
We addressed some needs in free agency. Hopefully, the Dolphins sign a few more players here because we had 20-something players hit free agency.
Yeah.
So this one wave that we had isn't going to be the only thing the Dolphins do. It just can't. So excited to see who the Dolphins get next.
Very true. Yeah, they're certainly not done. Anthony, any final thoughts?
We have 11 draft picks and 4 of them are in the 7th round. I better not see a single freaking 7th round pick. Trade up, boys. Get some, move around the draft. Be aggressive.
Like it. Josh, final thoughts?
Yeah, just want to take a second to really hone in on our fans. Really want to thank every single one of you for joining us, for liking, for subscribing, for contributing to via the comment section and live, both live on the show and on our videos post stream. Really appreciate each and every one of you. I know every single one of us do, and just appreciate the loyalty and can't wait to see you guys next week.
Suck up. What?
Just so happens it's how I feel.
All right, so guys, next week we will be back with Dougly Do Wrong on our show. Next week, 7:00 on Wednesday. Join us. We're gonna have a great time. We'll see you next week. Have a good night.